7. The wheel of a merchant's cart falls over my toes. I beat back a yell, but don't bother beating back. My rather rude rhetoric directed to the obvious man who's mythic creeping people with his cart. Well, today's off to a great start. I slept fearfully last night, tossing and turning as I faded in and out of my recurring nightmares. Flashes of my father dying while I can do nothing but hold his hand, climbing up a chimney only to find the top boarded off, and Adena, the only person I have left in this world, being dragged away from me screaming. Sometime between my numerous nightmares, Adena made a feeble attempt to shake my wake. I rolled over grinning, trying to cling to the little bit of blissful sleep I managed to steal. I may be the thief, but I'm regularly robbed of rest. Persistence per usual, Adena then switches her strategy, deciding to pair me with rough scrap of fabric until I finally resigned and white clothing surrender. The sun, lazy as ever, is slowly strolling to peek over the run-down buildings, casting love's alley in morning shadows while I make my way down the cobblestone path. As the street comes alive with the hustle of bustles of merchants hanging while beggars fled, with anyone who spares them a glance, I easily blend into the chaos that surrounds the slums. My hands itch to snatch some food to quiet my grumbling stomach and to bring back to poor Adena. My eyes flick across the street in search for my next unfortunate victim to rob when something's not right. 14. There are only 14 barriers lining the street, but there should be at least 16 today. I would know seeing that I memorize every rotation. I spot Ed, Hand, and Hog Nose in their usual spots outside of Maria's shops, along with several others in areas with equally accurate names, with the white leather marks obstacling half their face from view. It's rather difficult to come up with creative nicknames for the bastards, so I pride myself for a few I've made. Normally, the prospect of fewer words would be a relief, and perhaps it's not my physical abilities kicking in, but the science worries me. My stomach grows angrily impatient as ever. Food first, funny feeling second. I zigzag through the grove with ease, sweeping apples from the cart that rolled over my toast. The revenge as sweet as the crisp fruit I bit into. Leaning against the crumbly wall of a shop, I spot what looks to be a young apprentice haggling with a freshman. I watch as he fixes the merchants with a glare before throwing down several coins and snatching up a bottle of what can only be black leather. My eyes skin over the shillings as they rolled on top of the cart, counting them quickly to find far too many coins there for later. He is in a hurry. That's why he's willing to pay double what he should rather than take the time to negotiate a cheaper price. And he has the money to spare. The perfect target. I step onto the street and head for the boat, now quickly shoving through the crowd while I pulled at the leather scraps, holding my hair out of my face and of my neck. It falls down my back in a cascade of messy silver waves, while I curse the sweltering heat that already has my neck sticking with sweat, letting a curtain of hair fall over my shoulders and into my face. I morph myself into the perfect picture of innocence. Make an underestimate you, make them overlook you until you want to be seen. It's been so long since I've heard my father's voice that the soft sound of it threatens to slip from my memory and breathe into death with him. The thought shatters when we collide. I assume the screaming well-heard of the unsuspecting apprentice as I let myself fall. gathering a fistful of his shirt in one hand. I slipped the other into his vest pocket, where I saw him grab the coins. I can feel 6 shillings there. I resist the urge to grab all of them before only palming through. Greed is not an easily charming emotion, but I force myself to leave the other coins, knowing that he's likely smart enough to fit the laugh of weight in his pockets if I take them all, and I don't need to add any more scarves to my bag for getting caught. But right as I am about to pull out my hand and ramble an apology for nearly running the boy over, my fingers catch on the inside lining on his vest. No, not just the linen, a separate pocket. I feel a folded piece of parchment within, and on an impulse I can explain or justify it, decide to palm that to before slitting my hand out and shyly looking up into the apprentice's face. His brown eyes are wide as I stare up at him through the standards of hair blowing across my face. I arrange my expressions into that of utter embarrassment. I quickly uncord my fist from his shirt. Blowing a strand of hair from my eyes, I take a step back to put some space between us. I'm so sorry, sir. I force myself to sound breathless, embarrassed, harmless. I'm quite certain I'm the only person in all of Ilya who is capable to tripping on air. Go on, underestimate me, overlook me. He rolls a hand through his curly hair and chuckles. No worries. Guess you have quite a talent then. He wears a smile, but his face lingers a little too long for my liking. So I offer him a grin and a nod of my head before turning on my heel and vanishing into the crowded street. The sugary scent of sticky buns was down the busy alley, and I strode past Maria's shop and side steps into one of the many small alleys branching off love. The note I nicked brown downed with sweet as I grip in my palm what could possibly be written in this little piece of paper that warrants to be so high-end. I intend to find out. Fluttering my back against the grimy brick wall, I unfold the edge of the paper to reveal a script note. Meeting begins quarter past midnight. White House between merchant and elf. Bring the supplies. I stare at the note, blinking in confusion while my heart races in anticipation. That's my house. Well, that was my house. I can tell by the slant of letters and the smugglings of the ink that whoever wrote this was likely in a hurry to hide the note from prying eyes like me. Dozens of questions from my mind, each of one more confusing than the last. Why, on this plague forsaken earth, are meetings being held at my house? Former house, you left it, remember? And to meet there in the middle of the night with supplies? The letter. I tripped over the uneven cobblestone, ripping me back to reality as the realization that I've been facing this whole time. I shoved the crumpled note back into my vest, mind still reeling as I step out onto the busy street, now battered in sunlight. I shake my head, trying to clear it as I push through the throng of people battering, gossiping, and cursing. Beginning to wind through the merchant cars once again, I fell into the familiar rhythm that is my honest occupation, thieving. My mind wanders as I work, leaving me to wonder whether Paradena is having any luck selling her clothes on the other end of the long street. I still Jesus, and that's been our lives for the past 5 years. I was barely 13 and not really alone in the work when Adena quite literally ran into me. Well, she faces right through me. I'll never forget the look of the Imperial's face as he sprinted after her, screaming about the stolen pastries. And without a second thought, I didn't hesitate before sticking my foot out into his butt. As soon as I got a glimpse of my world's first meeting department, I was chasing after a gangly, curly-haired girl who ran right through me. An Insia alliance was born that day, one that was supposed to stay that way. My hand freezes mid-air, hovering over the plum grapefruit, when a chilling scream crossed through the mindful of Lot. I twist around, fruit forgotten, searching through the trunk of body to find the source of the noise. My eyes scan the crowd because sagging on a small sloping figure clubbing against a windy pole shining red at the center of the street. An imperial hovers over the small boy, whipping in hand, looking disgustedly pleased with himself as he stared us down at the child. I know that lot all too well. I've been that bleeding child far too many times. He got caught. I wonder what it was that he stole, what it was that could possibly justify such a beating. Some fruit, maybe a few shillings from a merchant. I remember sloping up against the wooden pole, shaking with the pain caused by each crack of the wing while I bit my tongue to keep from crying out. The pain fades, but the scar remains as I remember to do better. The young ones always get caught. They are needy, they haven't learned to control their breath or live with the hunger yet, making them easily targets for the Imperials to use as an example. There is nothing you can do for him. I have to beat those words into my head to ensure my feet don't find their way to the bone. Because I tried once, tried to step in and help a little girl who reminded me of myself, so scared and yet so determined to never show it. When she looked up at me, the fire in her gaze reflected my own. In the end, my attempt to help only ended with extra lashings for the both of us. I grimaced and quickly turned away from the gruesome scene, only to get a mouthful of scrambled uniform when I slammed into the low light wearing it. The Imperial stared down at me, amusing flickering in his eyes, surrounded by that white mask. Though he looks to be at least 10 years my senior, blonde-haired, sticking out at odd angles, he takes his time, lazily trailing his gaze over my body. I bit my tongue before he can say something he likely take me regret. Imperials are not to be gentlemen when it comes to young girls, or to anyone for that matter. And I don't intend to find out if he is the exception. So sorry, sir. I seem to be madly clumsy today, I say, planning my escape into the crowd. A clammy hand grabs around my waist and spins me back around. I summoned every bit of strength I have to suppress the final strength that screamed at me to knee him in the groin and bash his head into the stones beneath our feet. What is George Harry? His surging and black eyes sent a shiver down my spine, and the full stage of alcohol in his face only adds to my unease. I smile and force myself to be polite as I shake out his wrath. Just trying to run some errands before the market gets too crowded. That's all. He runs AME's beekeeping. Say it was your power, Gar. I fight the urge to sift in as he continues with the grin. By the grains of the queen, I'm the question anyone I feel should be questioned. He loves being in control, having power. I am mundane, I say simply, sliding my shirt on the Ellis food chains to prove that I am of little threat and importance to him, a physic. I look him right in his black eyes as I say, willingly his black heart to believe me. Is that right? I never met a physic before. He clenches clearly and takes a step toward me, beginning his head close to mine, as so I get another whiff of the alcohol clinging to him. Prove it then. I am growing quite tired of that demand. I made the imperial self, refusing to give him the satisfaction of thinking I'm conscious to my bold impulse proves otherwise. I'm sensing answers and regret from you. You've just split up with your wife. Well, actually, she left you. The look of utter shock in his face brings a small smile to my lips. And if you really want me to be specific because, well, you told me to prove it, is because I stopped my sentences, squeezing my shoes while pressing fingers to my temple, putting on a commission shot. You cheat on her. Wait, I'm getting something else. I pick up on his face, now red with rage, as I continue rubbing my temple. You want her back, but she doesn't want you. I'm prepared to be backhand before I felt the sting of it across my face. Blood flies from my mouth, and I keep my head turned away from him as he glows close to my face. Bloody witch is what you are. Get out of my sons, Munda. I spin on my heel and smile, blood pulling my mouth and dripping down my chin. I force myself to stumble back into a cart, snatching some fabric hanging off the edge from behind my back. I turn around quickly, clutching the both belt of my chest as I tear off a corner with my teeth, the white of my bloody mouth and chin. I use part of the fabric as an append, and the rest can go to Adena. Two birds with one stone. Showing the remote cloth in my bag, now stuffed with the food, coins, and other stolen goods, I hurried back toward the fort, all while replaying the last 5 minutes over my head. It wasn't hard to get under this perilous skin, and I knew once I had, he slapped me silly and led me securely away. This would have been the first time I've let that happen, and to prove my stability was hardly difficult, considering that the evidence was written all over him. The thin, dank line of his own empyrean finger was my first clue that he was formally married. Then there is the fact that he moved his way band on his other hand rather than pawing it off for money, telling me that he still cares for his ex-wife and is probably still pining over her. The disbelieved heart, gloomy uniform, and smell of whiskey on his face for the proof that he's obviously a single man who never has a wife to make him look presentable. Men would stink with a woman to cuddle them. As for part of where he cheated on his wife, well, that was more so an educated guess based off the way he looked at me along with the stellar reputations the Imperials had made for themselves. Clearly, the assertions hidden air before he hit me. The midday sun beats down on me as I make my way back to the fort to meet Athena. For lunch, just like always, I take my time wandering down lot, warming on an apple while hunger claws at me. The salty smell of fish, basking in the soga-toothed merchant's carts, hands in the air. Children scumbling in front of my path, laughing as they chase each other down the street. The sounds of voices, haggling and cursing is like a course to me, a tunnel into an old familiar weed. A large colored banyan catches my eyes as it begins to rise above the crowded alley, strewn between two shops particularly. He secures up the wall as though there is glue in his palms and feet, allowing him to climb up the small shops with ease. As he secures the rope connecting the banner to the vault, I turn my attention to the word scrawling on the green tapestry large black letter. The sixth forming trial is about to begin. Remember the parent time to play. Honor to your kingdom, your family, and yourself. You could be the next victorious elite. I snort loudly, nearly talking on my tongue for my apple, although the porking trials are nothing to laugh about. I can help but find it comical that they are meant to be a celebration, in honor of the great purging over 3 decades ago. The trials were created to showcase the people's supernatural ability and bring honor to the only elite kingdom. I couldn't say murdering innocent people brings honor to me, my kingdom, or my family. Not that I have. Not, not that I have any left to bring honor to, and yet every 5 years, young Alisa tries to compete in these games for both the glory and enough shillings to build your own comfy castles while you try to escape the trauma the trials cause you. But the part that has me shaking with both laughter and rage is that the lesser release, those with defensive and mutant ability, are made to believe that they have a chance of winning these twisted trials. I felt suddenly numb as I looked at the six faces surrounding me, all growing under the signs, brimming and pointing. We are the first to die. The least who compete aren't choices, but rather born into their fate. It's always those of crucial role or of higher status on the list stars to follow. I scanned the crowd as skipping off the smiley faces of mountains who are only thrown into the trials for entertainment after the king allows us to pick up who we wish to represent us. Despite the king's insistence that the killing of fellow elites on the arena is from her opponent, it's not a secret that death itself is the consensus and the triumphs. Dying teenagers apparently make things exceptionally more entertaining. And if the elites won't do the killings, the king will pull the string into the arena. I push through the throngs of people gathering under the suns, all talking over and over about who will represent Lord and what they will do with the prize money. Then there have been very few times in my life when I haven't been serious, but at the thought of competing in the Puna trees, I haven't more thankfully to be nothing on the importance, completely ordinary.